for those that don't know, the distilleries take their water extremely seriously. Like if you go to say the Jack Daniel's distillery, it's all about the limestone water, and it comes out of this spring, and it's the only water that can go in Jack Daniel's.
Oh, wow.
It is in some sense more coveted and more protected than maybe even their mash bills and effectively their recipes for their product.
Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast. We have a non-financial edition for you today. This is the best whiskeys to gift in 2024 with my good friend Robert Swarthout. Hey, Robert.
Howdy. How's it going?
Great. If you guys remember, we did this last year. It was a big download. Everyone loved this episode.
Yeah. I
love it because I do enjoy whiskey, but I wouldn't say that, I'm not drinking it by myself. Right. So it's good for social aspects, but other than that, I go to Robert's house and give his friends all my bottles.
Yeah, whiskey is certainly something that I think is meant to be enjoyed, and there's different ways to enjoy it, whether it's a group of people or just sitting down with a couple people. It's it can be totally different vibe.
So we all have a dad, uncle, grandfather, somebody that enjoys whiskey, and for me personally, I was always like, you walk into a liquor store and all the bottles start to look the same. Mm-hmm. And so I thought this is a great way for our listeners to be able to understand different price points, picking a bottle of whiskey, giving it to someone, and it being actually good, because there's a lot of bad stuff out there. And
it's intimidating.
It's also, it's intimidating, but it's also your taste too, right? So.
For sure. And, and there may be a bottle up here that I love that you absolutely hate, and that's totally fine. That's just the way it goes. It's no different than a wine in that sense. Some people like, maybe a more full body wine versus a more fruity wine.
So this is a great episode to watch on YouTube, by the way, because we have all the bottles laying out here. We'll also try to describe this very well for our listeners who are not watching on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So we want to start, Robert. Let's start with the very beginning.
Yeah.
Whiskey versus bourbon.
Yep. So specifically, all of these are bourbons today. We could all American bourbons, just to be super clear. We could be talking about rye as well. I chose not to do rye because the vast majority of people prefer a bourbon over a rye.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I'm a rye fan if I had to pick one. But at the end of the day, bourbons are typically sweeter and a little bit more welcoming. You can have spicier ones, less spicy, higher proof, lower proof. But at the end of the day, it's more welcoming. So there's your traditional bourbon whiskey. There's straight bourbon whiskey, blended bourbon whiskey, blended straight bourbon whiskey, and bottled and bond. At the end of the day, I don't think any of this matters.
I think I just misspoke a second ago. I meant to say like whiskey or bourbon versus like Scotch.
Scotch, yeah.
Right?
So
it's two different things.
Well, there's two different whiskeys, right? There's the American whiskey EY, and there's the Scotch whiskey with just the Y in the end. So that's the way a lot of times you can tell by looking at the name of it. It's a bit of a hint. But we only have bourbons here, and the last one that's on this list of 5 is bottled and bond. None of these are bottled and bond. That just means that it's 100 proof, and this kind of dates back to just after Prohibition, when they were literally had a government employee in the building making sure that they were 100 proof and following all the rules. So you'll see those from time to time now. It's I wouldn't say it's a marketing gimmick, but it's definitely a marketing piece to call it bottle and bond. It makes it seem fancy, I guess. Right. But at the end of the day, it's 100 proof and it's this whiskey. So we can kind of just jump in here. The first one that we have up here, and I just kind of we're going to go from cheapest to most expensive across the board. Yep. Our first bucket is anything under $50. So an easy gift. And I tried to pick things that, at least in the Atlanta area, were easy to find. You don't have to go to a specific bottle shop on the other side of town to try to get this if you're seeking it out. But ASW is the only hometown distiller on this list. I think everything else is from Kentucky, but this ASW product, the Fiddler, it's a wheated bourbon. It's slightly different. Has more wheat in it. The tasting notes that you might get out of it on your palate are toffee, clove, citrus, and cocoa powder. ASW is a distiller. They've come a long way. I didn't immediately like their products in the beginning, but they have really turned the corner and done really good stuff. So if you're in the Atlanta area, they have a lot of different releases that they do, but this is the wheated bourbon Fiddler in this case.
And it should be priced around $40.
Right around $40. It'll be slightly different in different bottle shops, but this one is typically a solid under 50 pick.
Yeah, and I like how they bottle it. It looks like a wine bottle.
Yeah, it's long and tall and slender, and all of their bottles are going to fit the shape. This is a relatively consistent bottle that you'll see with other brands because they're probably buying the same glass from this glass distributor, but it's it gives it a bit of a refined look, being nice and slender.
And it helps having the local branding and make, just because it has a story, right? It goes with it when you give it.
Has a story, and if you're in the Atlanta area, which I know a lot of the listeners are, they have a tasting room at the Battery that you can go to, and they also have a tasting room that's down at their distillery, down actually relatively close to the old Braves Stadium. So they're I don't know if they're trying to be near the Braves all the time, but they certainly have kind of set it up that way. So cool hometown story there.
Now, I've never heard of the second one on your list here.
Yep. And I will admit, up until yesterday when I was trying to basically finalize this list, I hadn't heard of it either. I was in a bottle shop.
You guys, let me put the significance of Robert hasn't heard of it either. We how many bottles do you have in your collection right now?
A lot. Too many.
I was like, no.
As of this list, I have 9 more. I don't think I had all of these. So there we go. But yes, so the name of this one is Green River. They have different releases, but I actually got to taste this. They were doing free samples in the store, and I think the hardest challenge that I had setting up this list of 9 here was finding solid ones under 50, because a lot of them are over 50 now. Like 2 years ago, this would have been a totally different story. But now
once everyone's heard of it, and it's like Weller, right?
Right, and disinflation.
You could buy Weller for $25
correct.
a bottle.
That is, not the case anymore. Right. But so this Green River product is it's a cool bottle. I mean, it's got a slightly different shape to it. The bottom is a horseshoe. So you kind of get the ability to have a slightly different thing. I like bottles that are just different, because if you're sitting there and you have it at the table, something to look at, something to kind of just, I guess somewhat pass the time as you're enjoying it. But this one, the tasty notes are caramel, dark brown sugar, mixed nuts, and baking spice. So
should be around $40 as well.
Yeah. It's and I think they have, if at least at the store that I was at, they have 2 or 3 other releases. So if you end up liking it, there might be some other ones there. Our next one is Blade and Bow. So this one, introduced to this one by my brother, goodness, probably 5 years ago. It's been a while. I'm not sure how he ran into it, but it's a good solid pick. I was happy to see that it was $49.99, so it kind of fit my under 50.
Right. You'll be over 50 with tax.
Yes. All these numbers, obviously, jokes aside, are tax excluded. But it's a very solid pour. It's kind of got this little key on it, so it has a bit of I guess bling to it. But
it's more of a short, squatty looking. I guess I don't know. Packaging.
Not really it's like, I guess, a 6-sided thing, but yeah, it's just different. And
I'm not sure why they have a key on Blade and Bow. They have keys in the middle of their logo. So that's why.
So I guess to kind of give a little bit of I guess tie back to a more old bourbon distillery. So this is from the Stitzel-Weller distillery, established in 1935. Stitzel-Weller went out of business, and they got bought up by Buffalo Trace. They make some, obviously Buffalo Trace is a huge conglomerate at this point, but they have a ton of different things. And this is one that is, I would say, a newer product that it fights above its, I guess, age class of sorts. So, but yeah, it's again, $50. And the tasty notes in this one are white pepper, vanilla, oak, and grain spice.
So when you think about proof, you always see the proof on the front end of the bottle. I personally like the lower proof ones. The higher proof you go, the more I think it tastes like jet fuel.
Which I'm surprised you don't like.
I know, right? Yeah. I love burning it, but not tasting it.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess we could obviously be talking about proofs here. So kind of going in reverse order now. The Blade and Bow is 91. The Green River is 90, and the ASW product was also 90. So I would imagine that's not a surprise.
This should be smoother.
They should be smoother. There's less ethanol in that. And admittedly, for the price point, they are coming out of the barrel. They're adding water to it to get it down to these numbers. So they can have more, keep the price point low.
More barrels.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Water's a good thing in this case.
Yes. And all, for those that don't know, the distilleries take their water extremely seriously. Like if you go to, say, the Jack Daniel's distillery, it's all about the limestone water, and it comes out of this spring, and it's the only water that can go in Jack Daniel's.
Oh, wow.
It is, in some sense, more coveted and more protected than maybe even their mash bills and effectively their recipes for their product. So before we jump to the next 50 to 100, we're just going to kind of throw in some good gifts. If you don't want to actually buy the actual bottles themselves, you can kind of give some gifts. If you know somebody that admittedly has a lot of bottles and you don't want to have to worry about getting them something they already have, which I totally understand, or they may not like, you might be able to give them a gift that's more, I guess, whiskey themed. So in this case, you can never go wrong if you give some Glencairn glasses. That's what these tear-shaped bottles or glasses are, excuse me.
Yeah. Like a pear, shaped like a pear.
Yeah, exactly like a pear. They, got the solid glass on the bottom, so they got some weight. And the whole idea is you're able to put it up against your nose and you can, what they call nose it and learn, you kind of get the different aromas that are hitting your palate that may be different. So you can buy these on Amazon. This is probably the easiest place to buy them. And they're typically in a set of 6, and we can link that in the show notes.
Okay. So now we're getting out of the friend category into maybe a more relative that we like category between the $50 and the $100. That has, let's start with the Yellowstone Bourbon Barrel Select.
Yes, a bit of a mouthful.
Yes, it is a mouthful. I love their labeling.
Yeah,
it's kind of a little bit like a wine bottle, but the Yellowstone, you've got the waterfall in the back, you've got a Yellowstone across the front, and if you have a loved one who is watching the series Yellowstone, this might be a cool, cool little pairing.
Again, there's no affiliation with the show.
No affiliation, no.
But it's a cool bottle, and even like this is an example of a bottle where they actually do some. You can tell they made the glass just for this because it literally says Yellowstone in the glass.
In the glass,
so it's kind of like, I guess, beveled or whatever you call that.
Right. It just makes me want to get on a plane and head out west.
Yeah. It kind of in some ways harkens back to the old glass bottles that, maybe had the bubbles in it and different things. Right. This one does not, but
like some of even the canning jars would have like the,
like the Mason would have that written in it. It's very akin to that. So this one, while I'm just looking at it here, is a proof of 120. So it's starting to get up there a little bit. And this one was called Barrel Select.
You can power your car.
You could try. The sweetness may be not so great for the motor, but you could try. So again, 120. This one they call it Barrel Select because the bottle shop I was at picked this barrel, and their name is written here on it. So, and this is also telling you it was barrel 13,151. A lot of times they do that and they'll tell you how many bottles it is. In this case, I don't see the number of bottles written on it. So my guess is 200-300 bottles type situation.
Yeah.
But so the tasting notes on this are you're going to just have rich flavors. You're going to have cherries. You're going to have caramel, oak, and it's kind of just a general balanced. I've had this bottle before, and I really like this one.
And this one's actually priced in at $52. So it's really close to the under 50 category, but probably a little higher class of a gift, I would think.
And certainly that. And I would say as we go up, these next, basically starting with the one we're on now and these remaining 5 after, are definitely ones that, like, if somebody likes bourbon, they're going to like these, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Granted, they may not, but like, they're not the, oh my gosh, I went into the store and let somebody sell me something because they wanted to sell it to me, right? It could show a little bit more thought, I think. So, yeah, so you already said the price. So I guess our next one is the Widow Jane Decadence. This one is, in my opinion, is going to be the sweetest of all the ones up on the table.
With the tasting notes of maple, cinnamon, brown sugar, French vanilla.
And warm spices. Yeah.
I think I would like this one.
My guess is you would. The proof.
When you think about the women who don't drink whiskey, I think they would like this one.
It is proof of 91, so this is right up your alley.
It's right up my alley. I drink like a girl.
But Widow Jane has got multiple products. They have some aged products. This one is not age stamped. So it's going to be less than 4 years would be my understanding. But this is delicious. And I had taken an unopened bottle to a party that I went to, and I think within like 30 minutes, everyone had tried it and it was gone. Like, people loved it. Awesome. So that's an easy one to take. And I think, it kind of goes across the spectrum of palates there. And
it's priced in at $100. So not horribly expensive.
Yeah. We're starting to get into the whiskeys that people will argue they may not be worth the money. They're worth the money. I think everything in life is more expensive than everyone would like it to be at this point. Right. And whiskey definitely went on a run during all the inflation times, but it's a quality product. I don't think that you would be upset by paying any of these prices necessarily.
Are you curious why annuities keep coming up as a potential investment option? People are often told that annuities can effectively mitigate investment risks and help secure their financial future. However, annuities often benefit the salesperson and might not be the best choice for you as a consumer. To learn more about the various types of annuities, the negatives of owning them, and better investment alternatives, we have a free ebook on our website just for you. To download our ebook, Buyer Beware, Why Do They Keep Trying to Sell You That Annuity? Simply click the link in the episode notes or visit wiserinvestor.com/guides. Now let's get back to the episode.
So our next one is barrel bourbon, and specifically the dovetail version that I have here. Barrel bourbons, I love them. And everything that they do, they're different than the last thing. So in some sense, if you get it, you may not be able to get it again. If you enjoy it, good luck. But it just shows variety. And again, it's a slightly different shaped bottle. It just kind of adds to what is a cool story. But this one has tasting notes of cocoa, molasses, toasted marshmallow, nutmeg, and peppercorn. And I'm guessing it's a lower proof. No, wrong, 125 proof. And it's one that you potentially could pour that. And if you don't like the high proof, you can add a few drops of water. You can put it on a ice cube.
Yeah.
That will help with the ethanol because it cools it down, but also will over time kind of dilute it down a little bit. So that's a fun one to kind of get to do.
And that was priced in at $80.
Yep. So we're going to take a break before we do our next whiskey and talk about just another gift idea. So
I'm excited about this one.
Yeah.
I've never seen this before.
So this is the time where if you're on the podcast, you pause it and you go find us on YouTube and you look, because this is going to be much easier to illustrate.
So we have a traditional bourbon glass.
A rocks glass, yes.
Yes.
And the whole idea with this gift is if somebody likes to make cocktails, specifically like a smoked old fashioned or anything smoked, this is a great gift idea. But
this is the glass is not the gift.
The glass is not the gift. It's all these other pieces over here. So this is called a fog hat. There's different brands of these, and they're all great. But the idea is you set this wood thing on top of the glass, and inside this metal container here is some almost like sawdust, but it's slightly bigger shavings. You put it in the top, and then you take the torch, which you can.
Yep.
You basically get it to smoke.
So it's kind of like a upside down gas cap.
Correct.
Inside on top of your drink. Yep. And then you would put the wood shavings in this little filter light thing.
Get them to smolder.
Give them to smolder with your
torch.
With your torch. You put a lid on top of the whole thing now.
Right.
And it's going to push that smoke down into the drink.
The gravity of the smoke. And there's some small holes in the bottom of the wood. They'll go down.
Are we linking to this somewhere?
Yes, we will certainly link to it. Yes.
So the actual name of it though is Fog Hat Cocktail Smoker. If you want to Google that.
And that's available on Amazon.
There's a U.S. patent pending.
Yeah. Which I don't know. There seems to be a million of these things out there, so I'm not sure what their angle is.
This looks like a can of tobacco that's actually has the barrel oak that's inside it.
Yep. So it's just just like sawdust effectively. But yeah, you put it in there and it smokes the glass. It's something that I have learned when I don't do this often, but when I decide that I want to do a smoked old fashioned, before I even put the drink in the glass, I will take a little bit of whiskey, I'll put it in there, and I'll just get it on the different sides, and then I'll smoke the glass effectively empty. The smoke will stick to the glass on all the sides, and you put in it, so you get a little bit more of the smoke flavor than just what the area would have been had the drink already been in there.
Interesting.
So something a little bit different, and I would say everyone loves a good torch. So so that in itself.
The torch comes with it.
The torch comes with it. Yeah.
Oh, how much is this thing?
I do not remember offhand. My guess is $50 to $70. But
okay,
you certainly be linked in the show notes.
You get the torch. Don't light your house on fire. You get the whiskey barrel oak, and then the fog hat itself.
Yep.
All in one package. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So something a little bit different. And again, if you don't want to have to be giving alcohol, or if you want to buy a gift and ship it somewhere, obviously shipping alcohol is not a thing.
Yeah.
At least not in Georgia. So you could do one of these other kind of non-alcohol based gifts. So.
And if you're really confused by all this, I'll throw in a book by Fred Minnick. It's called Bourbon Curious. Robert's wife, the best wife of all time. Tessa actually had Fred Minnick do a bourbon tasting for Robert's 40th birthday, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And this is my book that I had from that experience, which is really neat. But anyway, it's everything you need to know about bourbons and all that fun stuff.
And Fred's like super famous for bourbon reviews. He's built his brand around that. And
he's a injured war veteran.
Yes.
And came home and started his podcast, and he's a thing. It's a big deal.
Big deal. Absolutely. So jumping into our over $100 category, and admittedly, we didn't even get to the most expensive things, but I tried to keep it relatively reasonable
yes.
From a gifts perspective. So the first thing up is
celebration whiskeys, not that I'm sorry I screwed up whiskey.
Yeah, correct. Yes. So the first one up is the Bardstown Discovery Series. It's slightly different shaped bottle, but Bardstown really cool is the Discovery Series. They do these different releases. This is release number 6. I believe they're actually even up in the 9s, depending on if you go to different bottle shops. But it's a wonderful flavor based out of Kentucky, and I don't care what product you buy from Bardstown, you're going to love it. That's just how much I like their stuff. But the tasting,
I've actually never heard of that, and that's probably showing my ignorance on all this. But very elegant packaging. That would be a cool gift.
Yep. So the tasting notes on this one: sweet and creamy vanilla, oak, floral, and toffee.
It's 111 proof.
Yep. So that's still very approachable. $114. So it's approachable from a price perspective, from a proof perspective, and just generally it's a cool gift. So
now one that I think most people would have heard about, Woodford.
Yes.
Right. But then this is the Masters collection.
So this is not the normal Woodford that you're going to get.
Different bottling than what
different
you'd
bottling
expect,
and different finish. So this is from Madera wine cask finish. So this is going to have a sweeter, if you can believe it, because Woodford is relatively sweet to begin with.
Yeah.
Because you might see people ordering Woodford and Coke, for instance. But the sweeter finish, this is going to have a bit of, if you really pay attention, at least on my palate, I can get a slight like grape finish to it, because obviously it's coming out of the wine cask. But it's they release this roughly once a year, and it's again slightly different shape. Not all bottle shops immediately are going to have this one, but I think it's pretty thoughtful. And I think it says number 20, so they don't say the age stamp on it. No, they do not. Okay.
What it says with wheat finish. Or with wheat whiskey, what is that going to do versus what we normally expect from Woodford? Is it really going to change much?
My guess is the average palate is not going to notice the difference.
Got it.
I think what you're going to more notice is the Madera finish, cask finish, than anything else. In this case, they don't leave any of the wine in the barrel. But on last year's podcast, I believe we talked about a Basil Hayden dark rye, where they finish that in port wine barrels, and they leave about 5% of the port in the barrel. So that becomes very fruity, very super approachable. Like I even call it, you can pour it over ice and it feels like a Manhattan mixed drink immediately just out of the bottle. But that's obviously not what we're talking about here, but that kind of down that same kind of thinking. So.
And that's priced at $180.
Yep.
Did we talk about how it tastes?
We did not. So that one is rich oak, cinnamon, clove, and dark fruit. So I would imagine the dark fruit is coming from the Madera finish. And all the others are just kind of more of a traditional Woodford.
All right. And last one should be a household name for a lot whiskey connoisseurs. So the Elijah Craig 18.
Yes. So
is that 18 years?
18 years. So this is the priciest at $200, but also it's a release they only do in the fall. Like a lot of the other bourbons come out in the fall that are not just available all year round. Yeah. So Elijah Craig is definitely a brand that you probably heard. This is a single barrel on top of it. And
is that right? 40?
Yeah. So it's a lower proof. So they've
45 proof.
45%, so it'd be 90 proof.
90 proof. Okay.
Yeah. So they have obviously put some water in it, but I each year I try to grab one of these. I love these. And they don't typically make it to the next year for me. I end up finishing it sometime throughout the year. But the tasting notes on this one are cinnamon, spiced apples, brown sugar, white peppercorn. So a bit different, but it's a definitely a higher price point. And I get that this is not for everybody, but if you can find it, not all bottle shops are going to have it. And again, almost certainly if it's a bourbon aficionado you're getting something for Christmas, they would likely appreciate this.
That's great. So when we think about if you were going to give, let's say 2 bottles to somebody, what would be your top 2?
I'm going to do top 2 under $100. So maybe make it a little bit easier.
Yeah. Sure.
So of these 6, I would say the Decadence very quickly, and likely the Yellowstone. I'm a big fan of the Yellowstone product. They've, I think the first time I had them was literally within the last year, but I've really come to like their stuff. So yeah, those Decadence and the Yellowstone. So
that's great. Well, Robert, thanks for doing this. Hopefully for our listeners, I know this is, you probably tuned in to learn about, financial planning or something like that, but, hey, we can help you get through the holidays either way, through gifting or by drinking.
Jokes.
We're here for you. Yeah. But yeah, so for me personally, I started drinking whiskey occasionally, going to Robert's whiskey night at his house, and I'd walk in. I was like, I have no idea what I need to bring to this thing. And things, listening to podcasts or Googling something like this really helped me. So hopefully it'll help you guys over the Christmas holidays. Happy holidays. And we will look forward to getting back on topic in our next podcast. See you guys.